Hello, family, friends, and fans. I'm Fletcher Roden, and this is Fletch Anything. Today on Fletch Anything, Tony Soprano. Is he the great modern anti-hero? Well, you probably know who Tony Soprano is, but you may not know who I am or what this is. It's Fletch Anything, question and answer type show where you can pop in your questions and comments in the comment section of my YouTube channel or Facebook page, and I'll get back to you. Then I'll talk about anything I want to talk about. One of the reasons I call it Fletch Anything. Another is that I'm Fletch. Fletcher Roden, if you don't know me. I'm a writer mostly. I got a ton of books under my name and others. They're fiction and nonfiction, available in paperback and for Kindle and in audiobook format. If you've got Audible or if you like iTunes, check me out there. I've also got, I'm a recording artist with lots of music you can download all over the internet. If you like to download your favorite music, you can download mine. I've also got paintings and t-shirts and coffee mugs, lots of fun stuff. Check out my website, FletcherRoden.com. There's a link below. I also suggest that you like and subscribe to this channel, because that'll make finding these videos easier, and finding the videos easier will make getting a free book easier, because I give away a free book at the end of every month. It's a different kind of a book every month. It's the last week of every month. They're Kindle books, but you don't need a Kindle tablet to read them. You can just get the Kindle Reader app from Amazon. That's free. And then you can read it on your laptop. Okay. So, Tony Soprano. This is one I've been wanting to go over. I'm a Sopranos fan, and I referenced The Sopranos actually last week. In my talk, in a few times, I think I referenced it. I referenced Tony Soprano, and I said I would talk about this, and now I am. So let's see. Yes, in my new book, Tracking the Lone Wolf, the Sigma at Work, at Home, and at Play, which is now available in paperback and for Kindle, and is coming soon to audiobook format. Anyway, the book is quite comprehensive. I'm going to talk about everything a person needs to know. It's a guidebook for life, this book. I mean, I can't say this enough. I'd give it to every teenager. I'd give it to everybody in my work team, on my work team, if I had such a thing. It's really comprehensive, and it goes way beyond the Sigma. I mean, it talks about personality disorders, complexes, all the different personality designations, Myers-Briggs, and then it talks about leadership strategies and communication skills, social skills, basically. The inner life and the outer life is how my book is constructed. And so that, it's really, and it covers a lot of stuff. And among all of these things, I do some studies of fictive characters. So, for example, in the book, there's a thing called the Godfather equation, where because now we don't just have alpha and beta, we've got alpha, beta, sigma, gamma, omega, delta, and sigma. So, you know, it's a handy way to reinvestigate iconographical characters from fiction, such as the men in the Corleone family, Vito Corleone, Michael Corleone, and so on. It's a good way to illustrate the concepts of omega and gamma and delta and sigma, and re-examine things like alpha and beta. So I do it with the Jaws crew. I don't think I do Jaws in the book, but I do have another show, which is premiering on February 15th, called Tracking the Lone Wolf. And it's on its own channel, Tracking the Lone Wolf, I think at Yahoo, at YouTube or something like that. So I've got a show based on the information in the book. It's going to be twice monthly, starting on February 15th, with the first 4 episodes all come out at once, webisodes, I guess. And then, and so I develop some of these ideas just for the show that aren't in the book. You know, I go 1 or 2 steps further. I do Jaws on the show. I know I do. Who's a sigma? Who's a thing? And so it brings me to Tony Soprano. Okay. Also, though, in the book, in order to study these fictive things, I go into my Joseph Campbell routine. Okay, which is basically the Joseph Campbell wrote The Hero of a Thousand Faces. He was a student of Carl Jung, and Carl Jung was all about archetypes and iconography. So Campbell gives us this book, The Hero of a Thousand Faces, and in it he gives us a variety of different types of these archetypes as we find them in fiction. And one of them is the hero. So there are lots of different kinds of heroes. I mean, the book's called The Hero of a Thousand Faces. So in it, he delineates 4 heroes. And this is also in my book about the lone wolf, because it's important to understand this if you're going to understand the personality types. Certainly, if you're going to understand these fictive examples of these personality types, you got to know, all these things sort of work together. They all correlate. So just briefly, let's go back to Professor Roden's writing class. Students, you probably, if you're a longtime student of my class, then you know this, but if not, write it down. The Joseph Campbell in The Hero of a Thousand Faces gives us 4 among a variety of different types of hero. But these are the 4 most common ones. Okay? Willing hero, unwilling hero, existential hero, and antihero. So in just a very brief, the willing hero is both physically adept at adventuring and questing and engaging, either by physical strength, as in the case of Hercules, who's the model for all modern heroes, all modern willing heroes, or the case of Sherlock Holmes, who uses his great intelligence. But they are willing heroes. They do the right thing for the right reason. They set out to do good, and their motivations are good. And even though they may have a dark history, as Hercules does, kills his wife and children, or Batman, who fails to save his family, or Sherlock Holmes, who's a drug addict, they're scarred, but they're willing to help people. They do the right thing for the right reasons. That's the willing hero. The unwilling hero will also do the right thing for the right reasons, but they're not adept. They don't have the physical strength. They don't have the great intelligence, and they don't really have the desire. The willing hero is propelled by a need. In the case of Hercules, it's to redeem himself for the killing of his family. In the case of the man, I think it's the same thing. He's got survivor's guilt for having failed to protect his family. And so on. So they got dark motives, but they still do the right thing for the right reasons. The unwilling hero may lack that darkness, but also the compulsion to help anybody. They just want to be left alone for the most part. And then what you see is, well, your willing hero is your omega, is your alpha character, your alpha personality type. And your unwilling hero is sort of your beta. But keep in mind that beta is not weakness. The beta is not the weaker of the 2 personalities. In fact, the beta has strengths, the weakness that the alpha doesn't have. Beta is beautiful. That's what I say in my book. Beta is beautiful. So, and so on like that. The unwilling hero you can think of as a beta hero. The existential hero fights willingly, but not the quest fight. He quests intellectually to define himself and society. So the existential hero doesn't want to fight. He wants to fight, but not physically. He fights the mental fight. He fights the fight of identity. And a good example of this is Ricky from Trailer Park Boys, for example, or the character of Ben Gardner. I think his name is Gardner in The Graduate. Nick Adams is a good existential hero. And then you've got the unwilling hero, and that's what we're all getting to here, the unwilling hero. Now, the unwilling hero does the right thing for the right reasons, despite the compulsion to do otherwise. So the anti-hero is conflicted in his own way, or her own way. Harley Quinn in the new cartoon show, Harley Quinn, is an animated anti-heroine, because she has the compulsion to do bad things. She's a villainess, a hench for the Joker and his maul. And then she, over the course of 3 seasons, she goes to being an unwilling good guy. But it's not that she's an unwilling hero, because she's more than willing to get into a fight. She's more than physically adept to volunteer for the quest. She's got everything that a willing hero would have, except she's got the inclination. She's only doing the right thing against her internal compulsion to do the wrong thing. Okay, so the greatest anti-hero, really, the first in American fiction that I know of, and the long-standing great one of all time, is Richard Blaine from Casablanca. Some of you already guessed I was going to say that, because he does the right thing despite a compulsion not to. He has every reason to go off with Ilsa at the end and leave his romantic rival to be killed. Victor Laszlo. He wants to do the wrong thing, but he's conflicted. He got an internal conflict between his compulsion to do the wrong thing and his compulsion to do the right thing. So the anti-hero is a hero despite his own compulsion not to be one, despite lacking the heroic aspects of the hero. He's certainly not a willing hero. He's as unwilling a hero as you can be. But he's not an unwilling hero either, because he is strong and he is capable of fighting the fight. He just wants to fight his own fight, or he wants to not fight, or he wants to, the anti-hero is a complex character, more complex than the other heroes. He wants to do more than think about things, like the existential hero. The unwilling hero knows who he is. So does the willing hero. So does the unwilling hero. They all understand who they are. Only the existential hero goes around saying, who am I? Where do I belong? What do I do? Why is society here? What is society going to do for me? Where do I fit in? Where do I get that thing I want? What do I do about myself? Gimme, get me, buy me. It's the song of the existentialist. But this character does have a place in fiction and in society, in reality. So you can't just discard the existential hero. But it's the unwilling hero. See, the unwilling hero knows who he is, but then he faces the quandary of, is that who I am really? The anti-hero has an idea of himself, or herself, which they later find to either be antiquated or just mistaken. Like Blaine, he's a gun runner, yeah, but he got paid for it, but he always would have got paid better by the winning side. So he's got a underdog sympathy. But he's not part of any social structure the way the alpha is. Excuse me. Excuse me for a moment. I'm just going to excuse myself here. All right. So this brings us to Tony Soprano. He is an alpha male character with all the strengths and weaknesses of the alpha male. He's old-fashioned. He's stubborn. He's prone to physicality. He leads through force. He is implacable. He's stubborn. He's slow to evolve. In fact, it's his failure to evolve which creates his demise. So he is an alpha male. Again, with all the inherent weaknesses that an alpha male has. Now, we go to as an alpha male, the guy is he sees himself as a willing hero, doing the right thing for the right reasons. He starts the show kind of being that. Because he's trying to help himself and he's trying to help his family. And the guy is loyal to his family, like all alphas are loyal and protective, family oriented, because that's their place. I mean, that's his place of power, is his home. So, of course, he's going to protect it. Alphas crave stability, they crave status, status quo, because it's all about their status as alpha. And that's Tony Soprano is all about those things. And so he would see himself as a willing hero, but he's not that, because he does not do the right things for the right reasons. He's cruel to his family. He's murderous to his associates, his own crew. He's not trustworthy to people in other crews. He's murderous to them as well. He does not do the right thing for the right reasons. Despite setting off to do that, he fails to do that. Okay? He's not a beta because he's not a hard worker who forgoes leadership in favor of the common good, the greater good. He's not that. Probably someone like Patsy is a beta. But that, again, that's not bad. It's not a bad thing to be a beta. But Tony would be an alpha, but he's not the willing hero that the alpha is, and he's not the unwilling hero that the beta is. Okay, and he's got a little bit of the existential hero in him, for sure. He does say oftentimes, "Who am I? Where am I going?" The whole last season, season 6, or maybe it's called season 6 part 2, or maybe season 7. I'm not sure what the designation is, but this is his existential crisis. Who am I? Where am I? Who am I? Where am I going? So therein he becomes sort of an existential hero. But the existential hero, you remember, doesn't want to fight. He just wants to think. But Tony wants to fight. Even in that last season, after he recovers from the shooting, he goes right back to his old ways, even worse than before. So he doesn't start anew, like he says he's going to do. Every day's a gift. He's got a funny line. He says to Melfi, he says, "Every day is a gift. I know that, but does it have to be a pair of socks?" So he's got a little bit of the existential hero in him. But everybody wants to see the anti-hero in him, which he's not really an existential hero because he's too active to be that. And that really leaves the anti-hero. But remember that the anti-hero does the right thing despite the wrong impulses. And Tony Soprano does the wrong thing because of the wrong impulses. There is no real conflict there. He doesn't like Rick Blaine sacrifice his own happiness for the sake of others. He doesn't redeem himself like Hercules. He doesn't set off to protect the innocent. He protects himself and those around him who need to be protected so that he can be protected. But to say that he's an unwilling hero like Rick Blaine because he does the right thing despite the wrong impulses, he doesn't. He doesn't do the right thing ever. So he's not an anti-hero. He's not an existential hero, really. He's not an unwilling hero, and he's not a willing hero. Well, what is Tony Soprano then? He's not a hero at all. He's a sociopath. He's a villain. This is the rare case of a show that's about the villain. He is a mafia boss. And while that does have glamour and appeal to people, there's nothing heroic about it. There's nothing heroic about Henry Hill. There's nothing heroic about Jimmy the Gent Conway. There's nothing heroic about Jimmy the Ant. There's nothing heroic about these people. They're not anti-heroes. They're villains. Now look, I love Goodfellas. But there's not a hero in it. Goodfellas is one dirtbag after another. It's supposed to be that. Godfather, not so. Godfather does have heroes because there's a thing, it's important to keep in mind, the principle of moral relevance, or rather moral relativity, sorry. It's always relevant to be moral, but morality is relative, especially in fiction. So you can be just about as bad a person as you can be, as long as you're better than the people around you. Like Vito Corleone is capable of doing bad things, but he's more honorable than the people he must do business with. He's more honorable than the Turk. He's more honorable than Sollozzo. He has moral relativism on his side. Okay, so so too does any comedic hero. A comedic hero is different from a willing hero. Those are all dramatic heroes. Willing hero, unwilling, existential, and anti-hero are all designed for drama. Comedy is different. Even though comedy and drama are not two sides of the same coin, comedy and tragedy are. Even so, they're both types of drama. We know that from Fletcher Roden's Class 101. But a comedic hero is a different kind of character who is in a different context. In comedy, the willing hero is he's the stiff. He's the one we laugh at. He is the cop who chases the rascal. In comedy is the poor man's revenge. So it's different. All right. Just saying on the outset that this whole anti-hero thing, don't apply it to comedy because it's different. In comedy, the anti-hero is the hero. And the whole kind of thing gets flipped on its side. So anyway, there you go. Tony Soprano, not an anti-hero. He's not the greatest anti-hero of the day. He may have inspired a lot of other characters. I think Al Swearingen from Deadwood is a more accurate portrayal of the anti-hero, because he does do the right things despite the compulsion not to. Despite he has every compulsion to do the wrong thing. But there are times when he does the right thing despite wanting to do otherwise. However, he's such an opportunist that it's hard to say. It's hard to say if he's an anti-hero or not. He's closer to the Richard Blaine model than Tony Soprano is, for sure. And closer than Richard White, or Walter White, rather. Boop. Walter White, who we'll talk about tomorrow. Because Walter White also, is he the anti-hero that everybody thinks he is? Tune in tomorrow and find out. I'm here Monday through Friday. I post around noon. Sometimes I get a little thirsty. I go on for about a half hour. I leave them up for about 2 weeks. And if they're not as timely, I leave them up. Or if they're timely, I take them down. I'll probably leave this one up. Because, Tony Soprano. Hey, that's pretty much it. Let me know in the comments section if you agree or disagree. That's fine. I will be interested to hear about it, and I'll respond. And then life will go on. So keep tuning in. I'll be here all week to Fletch Me Anything. And that's it. Until next time, this is Fletcher Roden signing off for Fletch Me Anything, hoping that until next time you are happy and stay healthy. Bye, Mary.